Welcome back. It's been a minute. I know. I haven't been updating this as much. I have been on Basketball Rewind, and I've been on To the Point uh, with King, doing some things. I'm also just kind of busy too, doing some living the new dad life and stuff like that. But this is one of my favorite times of the year. It is draft season. I absolutely love the work that our guys from No Ceilings do. Shout out to Tyler Rucker, who's been a good friend of the show on Basketball Rewind, and looking to have him back soon. And you know, hoping to have James Barlow again, who we had last year of the Barlow brothers. He has some very good insight into draft prospects, especially where he's set up in Houston, or it's Houston or Dallas that he's in. But this is a great time of year for basketball if you're a fan. Obviously, if your team's still in the playoffs and you're more focused on that, or I would hope you would be. But with the Raptors out of the first round, we are now at this point where it's draft time. It's draft season. And you're looking to bring in a prospect that can ideally help this team right away, which would be, and can you find a gem at 19? Can you find a rotation piece at 19? And I think that's the goal, really. I think it's a realistic goal is to find a rotation piece at 19. We found Jacoby Walter at 19. Not bad. He really showed up towards the second half of the year. I think he shot well over 40% from three. Showed up in some of the games in the playoffs, too. Let's remember, he's a 20-year-old kid, I think. Maybe he's 21 max. But Jacoby is a guy. What I mean by that is that he shows up. He's not scared. He'll take a shot. He misses, he makes. Doesn't matter to him. He's willing at least to take the shot. And that's something that has impressed me with Jacoby. So pick 19 can be very helpful to us, especially in a deep draft, which is all things considered, or all the analysts, I should say it's a good draft in 2026. 2025 was a really good draft, Cooper Flag. Here's the difference with this draft, I find. It's top heavy. It was Flag and everybody else. It was Flag, it was Harper, it was Ace, BJ Edgecombe. Shout out to you, Beyond, your guy. This draft, it's kind of Debansa. It might be Darren Peterson. Had Darren Peterson played more this year and didn't have any of those other, I don't know, what I call mentality issues, this would be a two-way race for number one pick. It would not be as easy. Not that it's easy now, because Darren Peterson, unbelievable high school prospect. People are comparing him to like Kobe Bryant and Devin Booker right now. I see a little bit of the Ant-Man in Darren Peterson, but he's got to become more consistent. The mentality, you got to be able to play in some of these games, which I haven't quite seen from him yet. But with Debansa, a guy, he wants to play. Incredible work ethic. We are going to have a guest on the show shortly. When he comes up, we'll have Kenyon, the host of the Basketball Rewind podcast, my host, your host, I guess, if you watch the show. And I think we'll just be having Kenyon. Might have maybe some other guests as well. And I'm also looking to have on this show eventually, wanting to do a collaboration podcast with him, is Mike Roach of the Mike Roach podcast. We share similar last names. We share the exact last name. So I've always wanted to do something with him, and looking, hopefully, I have the time when our schedules work out, then we'll look to do something together at some point regarding the Raptors. But the lottery was the big day, Mother's Day. And happy Mother's Day to all those out there, and to any of the, all of your moms, if you're a male watching this show, I guess. So Sunday, big day. We had the lottery. Some teams really benefited from it. Some teams did not. The Brooklyn Nets and the Sacramento Kings. They did not benefit from this. And that just means that they're going to go in full tank mode next year too. Because let's face it, you're not changing your fortunes with the picks that they have. I think Sacramento has the seventh pick. I don't even know which pick Brooklyn is. It's probably like six or something. I'm just taking a guess here. Yeah, Brooklyn and Sacramento. One has the sixth pick, one has the seventh pick. So, yeah. And then there's Indiana, who gets completely lost out of the draft. That was a risky trade. Like, I get it at the time. You want to have a starting caliber center, a center that was under contract for a few seasons, not making a whole lot of money. He's got the Pirtle contract without the extension right now. And obviously, Zubac is a better player. Definitely more reliable than Pirtle. But the Indiana, they missed out on this draft because they probably could have used another big time prospect. I know they're really good, but they could, regardless of how good you are, you can always use a big time prospect. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's worked out for them pretty well. So, but we had the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz. That's interesting. 2 years ago, the Washington Wizards, they were a mess. And then they have the draft of all drafts when Alex Sarr falls to them at 2 because Risa Shea went 1. Atlanta, not smart. But Alex Sarr falls into your lap. Bub Carrington, they select him too. Decent combo guard, shifty, crafty point guard. Or, yeah, more of a combo guard. But Alex Sarr, who I felt was the number one pick, Kenyon and beyond, we all felt that Sarr should have went 1 in that draft. And you pick him, Atlanta. Who cares about the other stuff? You just pick him. Pick the best player. I'm sure Trae Young would have been fine with Alex Sarr at that point. But Washington picks him. They pick Bub Carrington. And they just start to add a lot of talent since then. And then last year, it was adding Trey Johnson and Will Riley. And we're about to bring Kenyon to the show, the host of Basketball Rewind. And I'll just finish my point and then I'll have him in to speak. But the Washington Wizards are building something. They have a ton of young prospects too. And Keyshawn George, he was the other one prospect with Sarr and Carrington in that draft. He looks like that's been a high value pick. And they picked him at like 22 or 23. A good selection. And he went after Jacoby Walter. Not saying that I wish we would have picked him over Jacoby, but he's had a pretty good start to his career so far. So the Wizards have had drafted Alex Sarr, Carrington, George, Trey Johnson, Will Riley. They're going to have the top pick in this year's draft. Oh, by the way, I also forget Koulibaly as well. So they're full of these young prospects, rangy wings as well. And now you just gave them the number one pick in the draft, which potentially you're going to be adding AJ DeBansa. And I credit Washington for trying to accelerate this process by going to get Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Is Trae Young the best fit for that team? That I don't know, but I do know when he's healthy, he's an all-star. He's one of the best scorers. He's a great passer. He don't play much defense, but here's the thing. He don't have to if he's got Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr backing him up. So you're kind of being able to shield some of Trey's deficiency with those two. But now we have Kenyon, the host of Basketball Rewind. First of all, Kenyon, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Can you hear me?
I hear you perfect. It is odd because you are always the host, and now I am the host now.
Exactly.
But yes,
You made an interesting point about Washington. One of the people that you actually didn't mention is Koulibaly.
I did actually.
Sorry, I missed that then. Because I was going to say they also have that perimeter defense in a real way. I mean, we were talking earlier about guys like Trey Johnson, for example. And there's definitely a lot of they can go in a lot of different directions in this upcoming draft and off season. I know some of it is going to be smoke and mirrors. You're hearing a lot of smoke and mirrors right now. So I think part of the hey, we might trade down is hey, can we actually get something to kind of to move down? I will say one thing, and then obviously you're the host. It feels like when you compare it to this year to last year's draft, this draft is a lot more wide open within that top echelon. Whereas last year it was like Cooper Flag, half step down, couple guys, half step down. This one it's like, yeah, AJ DeBanza is kind of probably the consensus number one, but is he?
I
Is there a
agree.
talent drop off?
I don't think there is. I you wonder if Darren Peterson played a full season at Kansas. There was none of these kind of I don't know on court issues with him playing. He might be the lock to be number one. He's pretty talented, and he was the top high school player I think in the country 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean the vibes that I get from him and
Yeah,
what scares me, but I mean if he's in a situation where he is not the number one quintessential guy that you're depending on, I think that there is something there that is interesting, and I would venture to say that here's the thing, I don't know the best fit for all of these guys. I really have to think about that, and that's maybe a good question for you, but like, yeah, like I like Darren Peterson. I guess off the top of my head, is him going third the best option?
I would say no for that one. I think Memphis is pretty committed to Coward and what Jalen Wells. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Cedric Coward fan. I think the best option for Peterson is one of Washington or Utah because you can make the argument he could fit in either spot. With Washington, though, they got Trey Johnson. He finished the year pretty strong. They also got George and Koulibaly. DeBanza might be the better prospect for Washington, but this is where this comes back to how bad does Utah want that pick? And I don't know. I'm guessing Ryan Smith, who I think he helped bring AJ DeBanza to Utah, the state of Utah, more or less, to play his prep high school and to go to BYU. And he runs the Jazz, I think, or so. He's the owner of the Jazz.
Hmm.
He's invested a lot in AJ DeBanza in the state of Utah. And he mean to tell me he is one pick away from guaranteeing his spot in Utah. Oh, he's going to be willing to do a lot to grab Devance in Utah. I'm just taking a guess. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, so I did not know that history, by the way.
Hmm.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, I think that there are things that they can give up. They have extra picks. I don't think that trading a bunch of prospects really makes sense because I think Washington's trying to kind of like Utah. They're trying to get better,
Yep.
and I'm not saying tanking is done. Like, there's definitely ways for you to tank, but the traditional tanking of trying to make your team as bad as it can be is not going to be as advantageous as it was before. It's kind of, being a middling team and then kind of ducking under at last minute might actually be more advantageous. So that's what I would say. But I think that there's a point in which again you have to ask yourself. Say it's Wilson is a good fit in Utah. Is he that much lower than DeBanza? Because there is going to be everyone has a price, and at some point the price might just be too much. And so it's like if it's say the second pick, because the second pick is the second pick. It's not like you're giving up pick number 19. So if
No.
so if it's the second pick, and maybe a future pick. Is that enough?
If I'm Washington right now, and you know that history with Devanza in Utah, I am wanting a mansion for that number one
Okay.
pick. Like I'm wanting number two. I'm wanting Ace Bailey, maybe. I'm wanting future picks because I just think Utah. How many superstars do you know want to go to Utah?
Well, they've had a couple, but not by choice.
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, I guess, is things like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they really haven't had that big. I'm talking big star since Karl Malone, John Stockton. I always
Yeah.
call it for what it is. Mitchell's really good. Don't get me wrong, but to have a guy like AJ DeBanza, who is 6'10" in shoes, because he came with the combine measurements today, which we'll talk about, folks, in a bit. There's no big stars clamoring to go to Utah. This might be your one opportunity. And you know why I also say this? I don't know if you can trust Darren Peterson in Utah. I could trust him in Kansas. How can I trust him in Utah?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, if I was Utah and if they want a point guard, I'd more so take the man from Arkansas. That's just
Oh,
me. Um, I think he would be a really nice fit next to Keontae George, and it would provide point of attack defense, and you'd have kind of a defense offense with both guys being able to give some oomph on offense, but you definitely have a defensive dog in Darius Cup, in my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm overrating him on defense, but I think that he has some chops there, in my opinion.
yeah. I heard someone today speak about a Cups defense, and they said that it stinks, but he plays so hard, and he plays hard. Like
Yeah,
offensively, he's so friggin' gifted. My thing is, I got Triple
that's where I'm
J.
at, by the way. Like, I
Yeah,
think because of his effort, that you can figure it out in terms of the principles.
yeah. I mean, I got Triple J behind me, potentially Walker Kessler if he's healthy at all. Like Utah has so many assets. I'm actually looking forward to either of these teams, what they do. Washington made the big trade at the deadline for Trey Young and Anthony Davis. They were get serious, like we are trying to compete. And now they might have AJ Devanza. That's quite a trio you got in Washington. Let me rephrase that. That's quite a four you have in Washington if you add Alex Sarr to that. And I don't even mention Trey Johnson or Keyshawn George, excuse me. Washington's loaded with talent.
Yeah, but they also want to get better, so that's why I don't know if the right move for them is to go and get at some point you have too many prospects that you're all trying to figure out at one time, and becomes a jumbled mess. Which is why I did like the fact that they got Trey, because you
Mhm.
can kind of get guys in the spots as they come along. But at some point you have to make a decision, and it's to me the decision for them is we got to get better this year. So that's why I'm like I can see them making a move. I don't know if I see that move being done where they're gonna want like maybe there's a move where they want Laurie Markkinen. That could be interesting. Now, from a team construction, putting a lot of defense on that back line, but that it's really really tough because when you have that defense offense type situation going on at some point like for example you bring in, and I don't know the trade, right, but say you're trading Ace Bailey, something needs to come back,
Yep.
and I'm already giving the number one pick.
I just think I'm just curious to see what this Danny Ainge is going to do. This is the biggest thing because I wasn't sure like with the lottery standings and things like that because Brooklyn fell back. Indiana's completely out of it in Sacramento. I didn't know if I'd see Utah in this position right now, and it's so interesting to see Washington and Utah, these two teams that make the biggest moves at the deadline, getting Triple J along with Trey
Yeah,
Young and Anthony Davis in Washington. I'm just glad that these teams are serious now because I'm tired of the tanking of these two teams. I just have to put up with Sacramento and Brooklyn next year because their lottery day on Sunday did not go well for them, especially Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, like do you, do you because again, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors at this time. How confident do you feel that they're going to go get AJ DeBanza?
Utah, I am 98% sure they're going to do everything they can to get Debansa.
Mm. And is there a point that's too much or to give up?
I'm sure there's a point that's too much. Okay, if you're Washington and Utah says we'll give you Ace Bailey the number 2 pick for the number 1 pick.
Here's the problem. I'm going to sound like an Ace hater, and I don't hate Ace, but Ace had one of the worst impact stats
I
for
know.
the entire league. And it's like you really got to trust your development. We knew that. I mean, I definitely said that he would come in and maybe struggle a little bit this past year. I think you also didn't voice concern. It's not about being
Oh, did we lose? We may have lost Kenyan folks. Things might be frozen. We'll see if he comes back. But yes, anyways, we were discussing about Ace Bailey and what a deal might look like because I really think Utah's going to go close to over the top to get this number 1 pick in Debanza. Like you have a good start in offering, well, here's the number 2 pick, which is probably going to be Darren Peterson. But you got a lot of leverage when you have the number 1 pick. And if I'm Washington, I'm asking about Ace or I'm asking about Isaiah Collier and I'm asking about future picks in order to get Debanza in Utah. Because the whole goal for Utah in the last 2 years has been to get Debanza on that NBA team to finally propel the Utah Jazz back to relevancy, which they haven't been relevant for 4 or 5 years now, ever since Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert left. And they haven't had a real, I don't want to say a real superstar, but Debanza got a chance to be a franchise changing superstar. The guy is like 6'10 in shoes, and he does everything pretty well. And if that is just one pick away, why would you not go for it? Stars are not clamoring to go to Utah. Shout out to you, Beyond. Good to see you here. How desperate is Ainge will be the discussion until draft day. How desperate is he? How much does he like Darren Peterson? I think that's going to be another question, too. Because if I'm an executive, I like the talent, unbelievably talented. Had he played a full season, he might go number 1. But with these issues on the court and not playing and taking himself out, I think some executives are going to get they're going to get some cold feet over him. And I think he's supremely talented. He's got that Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards type ability, I think. He's good. I don't see Peterson fitting in Utah. I could see a backcourt, though, of George and Peterson. It's probably not the best fit, but I just think if you're Utah, you might have to take him. I don't know. I don't think you can take Boozer there. I don't think you could take Caleb Wilson there unless you're going to trade Kessler, which might be an option. I think he's an RFA this year, so they'd have to match any deal that would be coming back his way. We'll see if we can get Kenyon back on the show. We did lose him for a second. He should be back soon. We'll continue on with our discussion. I agree with Bomani. I think Beyond's referring to. I'm not sold on Boozer. Seems a bit plodding. You know what Boozer is? I think Boozer's going to be an all star. I think that's Bomani said. He's going to be an all star, but I don't know about superstar. I think he's a safe all star. Now, I don't mean that in a negative sense, like he's a bust or he's going to be a bust. There's just some guys who are safe picks who are going to be really good, and I think that could be Cam Boozer. Now, once we get into the combine measurements, he's shorter than I thought he was. To me, on the court, he looked like he was near 7 foot at times. He's like 6'8.5" barefoot, so he's about 6'10" in shoes. To me, that kind of it doesn't. I don't think it helped his stock though. If if Cam Boozer was legit 6'10" barefoot and he's like 6'11" in shoes, I think that would have helped him. Now he's got the big body like his dad. As Beyond says here, kind of like his dad. Yeah, I think he's going to make some All Star teams. I think he's going to be pretty good. I do wonder about the athleticism part. I don't think it's elite. I don't think it's Caleb Wilson. I don't think it's Darren Peterson or Devanza. I can see Caleb Wilson going ahead of Boozer because you just see the athleticism. I heard someone say today about Caleb Wilson. The bar is Kevin Garnett and the ceiling is Giannis. I was like, whoa. You got two of the best power forwards, arguably two of them right behind Tim Duncan to ever play. And if that's the bar, if I'm the Memphis Grizzlies, you better take Caleb Wilson. Pair him with Cedric Howard. If you, me, a North Carolina fan, taking Caleb Wilson, and I get to pair him with my favorite prospect of last year's draft, and Cedric Howard, and whatever you do with John Morant, I think Memphis got something building. I think they have another pick too in this draft. Yes, they have the 16th pick as well. So that's going to get interesting when Memphis, yes, so Memphis has the 16th pick and the third pick. I think Memphis is doing it right with their rebuild. You already get pieces now. Jalen Wells is a really good player in Memphis. You got Zach Edey if you ever get him healthy. The dude is 7'4". You can't teach height, and you can't move the big body. It's not like Zach Edey is a twig. He's got a little bit of mass to him. So if you get Zach Edey healthy and you have Cedric Howard and you go and get Caleb Wilson, add some more shooting and a floor general point guard at some point. That's a lot of ability coming out of Memphis. Beyond, exactly. He doesn't seem like a great athlete, that's why I always had Wilson ahead of him. Yeah, I think as the year went on, like Cam Boozer's really good. To me, he reminds me a little bit of Paolo. I think he's that similar body type, skill set. I've never considered Paolo a superstar, but he's really good. Like Paolo's an all-star. I just look at Caleb Wilson and it's like, man, if you could be similar to Kevin Garnett, you can't pass up on Caleb Wilson if you think he can be that good. Athleticism, wins in this league. Boozer's good. Boozer might be better in certain things than Caleb Wilson right now, but I think as you project long term, I don't know how you could pass on Wilson if he's there. Christian Anderson at 6 foot. Yikes. For a team that lacks size, as in the Raptors, it's a little bit of a problem. If we had bigger guards or bigger forwards and centers, probably wouldn't be much of an issue. Like if Christian Anderson went to, let's just say he went to Cleveland in the draft, they draft him. He's fine there because he's got Mobley and Allen backing him up. Who would he have backing up here? Pirtle and Mamu? I don't know how that's going to work. And I like Christian Anderson. He can play. Great shooter. He actually probably would help this team a bit. I just feel like there's so many holes with this team that just him alone is not going to be able to help that. I don't think Boozer's as good an athlete as Paolo. Maybe. I don't know. They just remind me of each other. Maybe it's the Dookie thing as well, you know. But it's going to be interesting to see that pick between what Memphis does because I think the Bulls will just take one or the other. If Boozer goes to Memphis, they'll take Caleb Wilson. Or if Caleb Wilson goes to Memphis, and they'll take Cam Boozer, which I think they should. You got Giddy, you got Brucelis, you have Asenge, who hopefully will be healthier this year. You know, there's a little bit of an argument, though, for the Bulls to take Keaton Wagler. A 6'6" combo guard who can shoot the lights. I think he had a couple 40-point games for Illinois this year. Put him in the backcourt with Giddy. You might have something. So they'll probably go with Cam Boozer, and you can just put Buzelis at the 3, and you just got to go find yourself a center, and then you're kind of building out that way. Yeah, that's a pretty good talent base. Beyond, I still like him better than Shed, but I prefer a big than a big than a scorer for Toronto. I think I'm just taking a guess here. I think the priority is going to be a wing or a big for the Raptors. If they plan on trading Grady, you're probably going to need another wing, a guy 6'7", 6'8", who maybe get his own shot. Wink, wink. You had him on the bench, but you didn't play him. But I think they might go that route, or they could go the big route. You know, it's tough going for Pirtle right now. You might not bring back Mamu if he wants more money, and it was hard to play him in the playoffs. I think he was one of their better free agent signings they've had in a long time. There's no question about that because he can actually play a little bit, he can score, but he couldn't defend at all in the playoffs, and Cleveland just ate him up. Mitchell and Harden were just trying to attack him. And I want guys who could be able to play defense in the playoffs. That's why I'm a big fan of this Morez Johnson kid from Michigan. You know, he's a big time player in college. I think the game can translate to the NBA. I'm looking for guys, if they do go with a big, I am looking for guys who's going to be able to switch out on the perimeter. Cleveland just picked apart Pirtle, you know, between Harden and Mitchell and Dennis Schroeder. I'm not looking for that anymore. You're going to have to bring in some guys. Like when they had CMB and Scotty, you can do that, right? You can put them out on the perimeter where they get switches on defense. There are a couple guys in this draft who I do think can do that. I think Johnson is one. I think Sanak is going to be another one. I think he's going to be switchable at the next level. And he's just a high energy. He'll fight tooth and nail for rebounds. I think the jump shot's coming. It's not bad. His form's fine. He showed a little bit of 3-point shooting ability at Houston as well. And I know our friend Beyond on the show, he talks about the Duke tax that Duke players get. I think you were referring to Duke guys being hurt. I call it the Houston bonus. So when you play for Calvin Sampson at Houston, it's like your reputation goes up in the draft. So it's like, oh, you play for Calvin Sampson. Well, we'll consider you a top 15 pick regardless. Or we really like the guys that play at Houston in general, like Kingston Fleming, for example. He could be a top 10 pick, might be a top 7 pick. He's really high on a lot of, you know, scouts. Our friend Tyler up the show, who we have, Tyler Rucker, he loves Kingston Flemings. I'm not the biggest. I like him. I don't like him as much as Darius Cuff. I don't like him as much as Mikael Brown Jr. And my favorite of all of them is Braden Burries. I get two guys in this draft I'm really like. One is Merez Johnson, the other is Braden Burries. I think Burries is going to be big time in the league. He's got the size right now. He's got that combo guard ability. He can shoot it. He can get to the rim. I'm not comparing him to this guy, but I get the sense he's got a little bit of Dwayne Wade in him. Confident, a guy who can do a little bit of everything. I just really like his game. He had a great tournament as well for Arizona. I'm seeing him on most mocks anywhere from like high as 5 or 6 to down as 9 or 10. If I was a team past the Clippers, I'd take Braden Burries. If I was Brooklyn, I'd take him. If I was Sacramento, I'd definitely take him. Atlanta, or put Braden Burries with Cooper Flag in Dallas. Thank you, Beyond. I'm a Burries man. Reminds me of Kid with a jump shot. He would look good. Yes, he would. Put him with Cooper Flag. Would Masai do that, though? Would he take Braden Burries? Or is he going to go with Yaxel Lendenborg? Because he likes those 6'8", 6'9" guys who could do a little bit of everything. I don't know if Masai would do that. I think if Burries is on the board, or the Brown Jr. kid. Mikael Brown Jr. is also very good. I'm going to be curious now beyond over the next few years what Masai does in terms of how he drafts versus how he did in Toronto. Masai is allergic to big guards. His draft record would show that he is, yes. Trying to think of some of the. He drafted Jamal Shed, small guard. I'm trying to think. Freddie signed. Didn't really draft him. But yeah, I can't recall a big guard that he's drafted. But if Braden Burries is on the board, you better damn well take him in Dallas. That's going with Burries and Flag, and then Derek Lively. It's not a bad start, and you just put shooters around them. Say go. We'll wait for Kenyon to come back if he's able to come back. But yeah, so we did talk a little bit about the top of the lottery, Washington winning it, probably going to draft AJ DeBansa. I still think Utah is going to do everything they can to get DeBansa on their team, and they should. They should do anything possible to get DeBansa in Utah. Because, again, stars don't want to go there. And this is your chance to get a star. The Indiana Pacers. Ooh. I think Beyond had mentioned in the comments earlier, but Kevin Pritchard came out and apologized for the trade for more or less giving up the protections on that pick, or they changed the protections. I found that interesting. An executive did that, and honestly, I didn't mind it. I think just being honest with the fans about that decision was kind of cool. You don't hear it very much, because trust me, there are some executives who probably should apologize for trades or extensions that they've given out. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I actually didn't mind that. I think I remember some didn't like it, but I didn't mind it. He's just being truthful with the fans, to each their own. Indiana probably could have used a top 5 pick. I mean, any team really could use a top 4 pick, I should say. Yeah, they could have used any of those top 4 players, but so I guess the final trade for Zubac is Ben Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, the 5th overall pick, and an unprotected 2029 first round pick for Zubac and Kobe Bryant. That's a lot they gave up. That is that worse than the Pirtle trade potentially? Like we didn't give up much in players on the roster at the time. I think it was just Banton that we gave up, or maybe I can't specifically remember, but we just gave up picks. Like one was Rob Dillingham. That was one of the big picks that we gave up for Pirtle. I think it was just one first, and then there was a couple of seconds in there, and then there was like another player. It was though the first round pick that never ended. Um, Beyond the locker room, yes, it's worse than the Yak deal. Oh, just when we thought we couldn't get any worse, but Kevin Pritchard, he outdid Masai on that one. Here's how why it still might be worse though is that they never gave Zubac an extension yet. That's going to go be like $27 million. He's still under contract at about $20 million for 2 more years. So that's where you still make the argument in terms of the extension, how it still might be better. And Zubac, I think, is more healthy than Pirtle. But yes, the trade in itself, it is worse than the Jakob Pirtle deal. You gave up 2 first-round picks. You gave up a 24-year-old shooter who can really score the basketball and a rotation piece in Jackson. So yeah, it is a worse deal than Pirtle. The thing with Indiana, though, is that they're competing for a championship next year. Whatever Halliburton's able to give them, I suspect it'll take him a little while, but he'll get back to his all-star form and Siakam's prime, Nemhard. They got a lot of pieces still there. At least Big Z can play. Yes, Big Z can play. He's going to fight for boards. He's going to dunk on guys and block shots. You know, Pirtle's so finesse. You see these little floaters. You ain't going to get that from Zubac. You kind of want Pirtle to be a Zubac, I would think. I even think Darko wants that because you've heard about we want Yak to be more aggressive. We want him to dunk the ball more. And yeah, you should want him to dunk. He's like 7'1", but he's got this little finesse game. It would be nice to see him a little bit more aggressive, but we will move on. We'll see if Kenyon comes back. Kenyon, obviously, if you're watching, come on back. No worries if you can't come back. Let's move on, and we're going to look at some of the combine measurements that came up today. We looked at some size of players, which I found interesting. We had Merez Johnson. We found out that he is 6'9", barefoot. Yeah, sorry, people. Just give me a second. We found out he is 6'9", barefoot, which means he's 6'10" in shoes. Can that play center in the NBA? Yes. Is it ideal for the Raptors? Probably not the most ideal. But can you play him and Scotty or him and CMB together? I think you absolutely can. I watched enough of the playoffs with Cleveland where Pirtle and Mamba could not defend when they went out on the perimeter. When Scotty and CMB were out there, Cleveland had more problems. So if you add a guy who also can stretch the floor for them a little bit, who is a better shooter than those guys right now, better than CMB, better than Scotty from three, you have like a 3 big rotation of those guys. That's a lot of switching you can do. And this kid is pretty strong. He's 6'9", like 250. So he's a big kid. And he did well today at the combine, is my understanding as well. But yeah, so we know that he is 6'9". I'm just looking it up here for sure. Yes. So Johnson is 6'9", 250 pounds, 7'3" wingspan, 8'11" standing reach. He's a Raptor type prospect, or at least a Masai Ujiri. Based on what Bobby Webster said, I can see him being under consideration. I will answer Beyond's question before I move on. Do you think the Raptors can move up? And I would target Golden State or Milwaukee. Do I think they can move up? I think they could. If I know where you're going with this, are you suggesting maybe 19 and Grady to move up to one of those spots? Who would be more likely to accept a deal on that? Probably Golden State. I think Golden State could see Grady Dick and, like, we think we can make him a shooter. Laughable. Um, why I say laughable is, well, he's been a shooter his whole life until last year. Whatever happened last year, he's still been a shooter. So if you want to make Grady Dick a shooter again, Golden State's probably the team you want him to go to. Milwaukee, that will depend on the whole Giannis situation, I think. Because you could rebuild Milwaukee if you trade Giannis. He goes somewhere. You get some guys back and picks, and then you move Grady in 19 for number 10. Would Milwaukee do that? I don't know. It depends. With Milwaukee, it's going to be tougher because of the whole Giannis situation. I do think you got a case there with Golden State. I think Grady Dick. You like to call him Klay Thompson a little bit. What better place to make Grady Dick close to Klay Thompson than Golden State, if you really wanted to go that route? And Grady's a great athlete too. He might not defend like Klay in his prime, but you could definitely get something out of Grady Dick in Golden State. If he's playing with like Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, absolutely. You might want to call Bobby. Our friend beyond the locker room's got a point. And at pick 13, you're going to have more options as well. Any of those top 10 guys falls out, you got them there at 13, you got yourself a top 10 pick. Or a top 10 talent, I should say. That could be the difference. I remember the draft when we drafted Jacoby. Yes. We had Khalil Ware close by, Tristan Da Silva close by, and we had Jarrett McCain. They were all in that mix, maybe. We all liked them. And now, don't get me wrong, happy with the Jacoby pick. But those guys right now might have a bit more of a resume than Jacoby. What I'm just trying to say is, if you can move up a few picks, it can make a world of difference. And if you're not going to play Grady Dick, you might as well just try to move up. See if a team will take him. I think a team like Golden State would take a chance. Bobby likes him. Darko, not so much. Yeah, from that press conference. Well, Darko made the comment of how guys like Grady spend their whole 4 years in college before they come out, which is silly. Grady Dick was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the U.S., or one of them. And he was what's the conference they play in, Pac-10 or SEC? It's slipping my mind. It's Big 12. Sorry. They play in the Big 12. The Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Year 2, comes in, he's starter for 2 months, scores about 18, 20 points a game. I don't think that's a blip. I don't think that's a flash in the pan like the Ultimate Warrior. I think that was something. But I just don't know if they know how to use Grady. But I'll also say this, though. Grady's got to make his shots. You can't just shoot under 30% from three. Grady will not last in the league if he shoots under that. He's got to become a better three-point shooter. Yes, Morez Johnson, 6'9", barefoot. Chris Sinak. There's another guy who is getting some headway. As I mentioned earlier, he's got the Houston bonus, playing for Calvin Sampson, playing for a good program and a good coach. I've always compared him to a slightly shorter Khalil Ware, but with more motor. I don't have motor issues with Sinak as Khalil Ware has gotten. I think Sinak, he might not be maybe as gifted as Ware potentially, but you're getting a high energy guy. He's got a decent jump shot. His frame and how he plays, when I say frame, I mean physical frame, it's more suited for today's game as well. He's 6'10", almost 6'10" and a half barefoot. So in shoots, he's almost 7 foot. And he's listed at 240 pounds. 7'5" wingspan, 9 foot standing reach. I think he had a max vertical of 37 inches today. It's about 3 feet. So Sinak, if he's there at 19, I think you'd be able to take him and give him rotation minutes. I think you can play him and CMB together. They'll be able to switch out on the perimeter, which this team needs on defense. Every team needs it in the NBA. You can't go with these guys like the Pirtles of the world or the Nick Vucevic's. It's the one thing that I worry about the Mara kid in Michigan. He's good. He's 7'3". What's going to happen when all these teams get him and switches out on the perimeter and he has to recover? What's going to happen then? That's my worry about with big guys and kind of that body type. But with Sinak, I don't have to worry about that. I think he's able to recover well. I think there's a bit of a jump shot there that might work. He just got to, they just have to develop him, give him some time. So we'll see how that works. Jaden Quaintance, it's a guy Kenyon and Beyond and I have talked about. We found out he's 6'9", 250 pounds, 9'1" standing reach. Incredible talent, but lots of injuries, lots of knee injuries. That worries me a little bit, but I do love his talent. If he ever puts it together, that's a top 10 pick. If he ever put it together, he might even been a top 7 pick had he not had some injuries. I know he transferred to Kentucky, but he only played 4 or 5 games, and the minutes were, not consistent. Our guy Mouth the North, Hannes. I found out it's Hannes, not Hans, but Hannes Steinbach, 6'10.5", barefoot, 250 pounds. How I view Steinbach is a little bit how I view Ace Bailey. Now, I'm not saying these two have similar games, not at all. I'm saying you know what you're probably getting from them. With Ace Bailey, I know he's going to be able to shoot all over the floor and make just really tough shots, like big time shots. With Hans, I know he's going to be a double machine. I know he's probably going to give me 18 and 10, some seasons. He came in as a freshman and averaged a double in college. That's not easy to do. And he's doing it at Washington, where I'm sure he had to be the number 1 option and do all of that. If I'm the Raptors and you like Domantas Sabonis so much, why don't you just draft him? He basically will do what Sabonis is doing, and you'll do it for a lot cheaper. I think Steinbach has the ability to maybe become a better shooter than Sabonis. Will he play defense like some of the other guys we mentioned, like a Johnson or Sinak or Acquaintance if he's healthy? No, he's not going to. But if I'm the Raptors and I'm like the bottom 20th in rebounding, and I have a guy who's going to be a double machine, I think you've got to consider that. You don't always have to pick redundancy. That's why a guy like Koa Pete, who I like him, but I don't want the redundancy. I got Scotty and CMB. I don't know how that would work. Maybe if you go for a guy who kind of has a bit of an opposite game with them, but can complement them, complement a Scotty, complement a CMB. Because I can tell you coming off the bench next year, if Steinbach is what I think he might be, is that he could really probably help this team on offense and rebounding, which this team needs. Defense isn't much of an issue. They're a top 5 defensive team without a starting center. They're a top 5 defensive team with they pretty small guards. Like, credit to Scotty Barnes and Darko and CMB. You probably could use a center who can play a little bit. Is he my first option for the team? No, he's not. But I think he's someone though that could help. He gives balance. Maybe it's the best way I could put it. I can play him with Scotty. He can space the floor. I can play him with CMB. He can space the floor. He's going to be able to rebound. Being able to guard some of those big guys. So I wouldn't hate it if they drafted him. Beyond, I need the D at the center position, especially on this team. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think Sanak would be able to do that. If he doesn't his first year, I think you project him out to giving that defensive ability. Um, I think Johnson could do that as well. I know he'll be a bit smaller, but there's only an inch difference between him and Sanak. And he's also 10 pounds heavier. And I think his game is a bit more polished right now. So I can, I think you could sell me on him playing some center. I would love to see Johnson play with CMB or Scotty. I think teams would have a big time problem trying to defend all those guys, or sorry, trying to score on those guys. So yeah, we're just looking more at the mocks, looking at the draft. Golden State is interesting. Oklahoma City, pick 12, pick 17. Oh, to be Oklahoma City. What a time to be them with all their talent, all their championship chasing abilities, or championship aspirations, I should say. And now to have another two picks. They'll probably have to trade one of them, actually. They might not have the roster spots. Beyond, what about Carr? Are you talking about Cameron Carr Beyond? The guard from Baylor? Just curious before I move on. You just let me know if that's who you're referring to. If it's Cameron Carr, the kid from Baylor, he measured it basically with Jacoby's measurements. Okay, Cameron Carr. So another a wing coming in. I wouldn't mind him. He could defend really well too, actually. Carr is a good 3-point shooter. I'm just wondering though, are you too small at the wing positions now if you have Carr and Jacoby? I think you can have one of them. Can you have both? That I like to get a little bit bigger at the wing position. If there was someone there, I like Carr because I think he can shoot. I just wonder if you're a bit small if you go him and Jacoby. Maybe not. Maybe they just feel he's the best talent available and you pick him. Which that's not a bad idea to do. I'm just looking at some of the trying to find more info on the combine today. I know it looks like Merez Johnson, he did pretty well. Dalen Swain, he's another guy. He's been mocked too. I had him in one of those Raptor wings that I'm sure would be appealing. I just worry about Swain's shot form, how quick he can get his release off, because a lot of scouts really like Dalen Swain. They like his ability to score, his ability to defend and switch. They just were not liking the jump shot, but he shot the ball well today, and he could be a Raptor. Carr over a center. Carr feels he could be a 3-level scorer. That's not a bad point, though. Yeah, if the goal is to get a 3-level scorer at 19 without trading up or trading back, Carr might be your guy. Depending on the jump shot from Dalen Swain, he also could be that guy because he's 6'8". Just trying to look more here. There's a lot of big time prospects in this draft, that's for sure. Yeah, so from our good friend Tyler Rucker of basketball, or a guest on Basketball Rewind that we like to have, he posted the 3-point star drills. Alex Caravan, who probably will go second round, but our guy from Connecticut, 18 of 25, 72%. And then we had Tyler Tanner, someone who Kenyon likes. Christian Anderson, also 72%. My guy, Morez Johnson, 68%. Bennett Sturts, who's been a guy linked to the Raptors, 64%. And Chris Sinak Jr., 64%, shot the same as Bennett Sturts in this 3-point star drill. I missed your thoughts on Nate Ament. No sooner had him at 18 now. Never actually mentioned Nate Ament. The Tylers on No Ceilings, they kind of had an interesting comparison. They even mentioned the 19th pick, but they didn't mention it was Toronto. They probably didn't know at the time. They kind of asked the question, would you take Koa Pete or would you take Nate Ament at 19? Now, for me, I'm taking Ament because I already got two similar skill sets to Koa Pete. That's not a knock against him. I want a skill set that's going to complement Scotty and CMB. So if Nate Ament's there at 19, and you see a guy who's 6'10" with that kind of length and that kind of shooting ability, I don't think he's this tremendous athlete, and I don't know about his mentality, but I think there's a lot of talent there. There's talent which could be a rotation piece next year with Ament. And if he ever develops, you got potentially a star on your hand. The Tyler Metcalf mentioned something interesting. He said, if this was like 1996, I'd probably go with Koa Pete. But because it's 2026, I'm going to go with Nate Ament. And I agree with him. I think the shooting matters, especially for our team. I think at pick 19, you obviously want the best player. You want a guy who might fall to you, a la an OG Anunoby quite a few years back, who was at one time looked as a top 10, 12 pick, and he fell because of his ACL injury. Jacoby's an example of that. Jacoby was a preseason top 7 pick, and he fell to 19. You can make an argument at the time that Grady fell, because Grady was mocked as a top 8, 9 pick, but he fell. The Raptors tend to go for some of those guys who are mocked higher, and then they follow them, which isn't a bad draft strategy for sure. Alan Graves was someone else who's been mentioned by a million people wanting to go to the Raptors. I know he can shoot. I worry about the foot speed. When I watch him play, looks a little slow. I worry about that on defense. He can shoot, though. I'll give you that. But I just look at him like, not fond of the athleticism. But he does seem to be moving up draft boards. And then we had, Dalen Swain. He went 12 for 25 in the 3-point star drill, so that's 48%, which is really good for a guy, especially with issues around his shot. And then, Koa Pete today in the 3-point star drill, he shot 24%. He was 6 of 25. Not great. We're just looking here. Side, mid, side. Another shooting drill. Bennett Sturts was second at 75%. Our Alex Caravan again, really showing up at the combine. He has to go in the draft, I believe, because I think he was a senior. Dalen Swain, 70% today. Christian Anderson, 60%. Then we're looking at Kareem Lopez, who's also been rumored as one of those wings that might be available in 19. He was 50% in the side mid side drill. Alan Graves, 19th. Koa Pete, 21st. No step vertical jump. Interesting metric. Koa Pete, number 1. 34.5 inches. No step vertical jump. And Zuby Ejiofor I think he's from St. John's. He also has a workout with the Raptors coming up, he announced. He was at 34 inches. He's been mocked in the second round. Hey, if he falls to the second round, take him. I would definitely take him. Morez Johnson, 33.5 inches. Chris Sinak, 33 inches. Kareem Lopez, 32 inches. Christian Anderson, 31 inches. He might be 6 foot. He can jump. Bennett Sturts, 30.5 inches. Not bad. Maximum vertical jump. Andrei Stojakovic. Boy, he must jump higher than the old man, than Peja. 41.5 inches. That's impressive. Christian Anderson, second, 40.5 inches on his maximum vertical jump. Merez Johnson, 39 inches. He's third. Johnson did really well today. From all accounts, from Tyler Rucker and all the no ceilings guys, they seem to be very high on his efforts today. I just think his game's built for the NBA. He can play the four, he can play the five. It'll be tough for him to play the five against like some of the like a Jokic or someone like that. But I can see on most teams though because of his physicality and strength, he'll be able to get away with playing the five. Uh, Bennett Sturts, 37.5 inches maximum vertical jump. That's impressive. Sanak, 37 inches. Dalen Swain, 36.5. I'm mentioning these prospects, people, in case you're wondering why I'm focusing on so many. Just these guys that are around the Raptors area. What else we got here? The pro lane drill. Henry Vesser, UNC guy, did it in 11.20 seconds. That's pretty good. Beyond, Stojakovic is a completely different game than that. He does. Yeah. Peja Stojakovic, he was such a fun watch. For sure. But potential lottery pick, Ade Mara recorded a 9'9" standing reach today. That is the second highest in history. So basically, he can stand and touch the rim. That's pretty cool. Our friend Skip Bayless on Twitter. Yes, the Skip Bayless, the one who thinks LeBron James is trash. He says Darius Cuff Jr. will be the steal of this draft if he falls to 6 or 7. He doesn't have Peterson's height or length, but extreme intangibles and willpower. I don't agree with Skip that much. He could be right though. These I call them Kentucky guards. These Calipari guards have a lot of success in the draft. Darius Cuff, I like him. He can flat out score ball, and he's very good athleticism, speed. Should Sacramento pick him if he's there? Yeah, they probably should. They get themselves a point guard. Darius Cuff came in at 6'2", 185 pounds, 6'7" wingspan. Beyond, it feels more and more the Raps can get a center in the second round. Uh, Maybe they get pick 50. I do worry. I know you and I have had this conversation about the guys returning to college and the NIL money that's out there. It's certainly depleting the draft pool. Like what could have been pick 50 had everybody come out that they usually do, it would be very different than it is today. Yes, Skip a broken clock, and I also agree with him. Yeah, yes, I can Skip's get a point there on the cuff. Yes, I remember that game. So cuff, Darius a cuff before he faced Alabama was in a walking boot, and he scored 49 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists against Alabama, playing 50 minutes. So he played into overtime. So the guy is just, he's got a chance to be one of those elite guards that you see in the NBA. That hybrid of like Russell Westbrook and Dame Lillard. I think he's got that kind of ability. NIL is diluting this draft. I think it's good to dilute the drafts moving forward with all the money. You can make more money going back to college than you play in the NBA with those rookie scale contracts, depending on where you're drafted. Someone tweeted out, Sturts just doesn't fit how the Raps play defensively. And I agree with that. I agree. He doesn't quite fit, but the problem is he's got the skill set that they need. And I'm not saying it's him that I want, but they can step back threes and stationary threes and being a point guard, like a decent point guard, setting guys up because he draws so much of gravity. Yeah, that could really help Scotty Barnes, or that could really help CMB or RJ. As my dad says, Cal always has the boys ready for the association. He does. He's the best at it, I think. Krzyzewski got there, I think, eventually with some of the Duke players. But I think Cal, man, he's any of those top Kentucky players or now Arkansas players, like they do well in the NBA. Sturts doesn't fit offensively either. Not the way Darko coaches. Yes, I agree. He wants to DHOs with the guys in the high post. Sturts he works in the pick and roll and he um, gauges the floor and he tries to either hit the open man or just take him himself. So technically, it does not fit us. Uh, here's an interesting one that I just saw. A 99 plus combine score for Chris Sinak Jr. His measurements closely compare with Khalil Ware and Dwight Howard. Hmm. And Khalil Ware, he was one of those guys. He just destroyed the combines with what all he was able to do. I think there's more weight behind Sinak though, because again, as I said, it's not the Duke tax; it's the Houston bonus. It's the reputation playing for Calvin Sampson. But yes, so want to thank everyone for coming on. This is probably the longest live I've ever done. We did have Kenyon on; he had internet issues. Beyond, thank you for coming as well, for joining the stream. And I'm going to look to have more guests on my show. I am looking to bring Mike Roach on the Mike Roach podcast. We're going to have a Roach collaboration podcast together, probably to discuss the Raptors at some point when we both have the time. But thank you, everyone, for showing up. Please take care, and we'll see you down the road. Cheers.